A pleasant day to all our viewers. Once again, this is the voice of the Black River New Testament Church, and today it's in association with the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the St. Elizabeth Division. We have with us today Inspector Sophia Daly. She is the sub-officer in charge of the Community Safety and Security branch for the parish. And we remain, as a church, relevant to the community and to our members in providing valued and valuable information as we make an effort to endure this pandemic, which has caused so much fear, so much anxiety. And today with us we have Inspector Daly, who would have been representing the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and we will be looking at COVID and the law, what the law says. Pretty much that we need to know the do's and the don'ts relative to the legal aspect of the restrictions for COVID and the benefit that we will derive when we comply with the law and ensure that we carry out what is expected of us. So, welcome, Inspector Daly.
Thank you, Mr. Kane, for welcoming the St. Elizabeth Police to the Black River New Testament Church. It is refreshing to see that the church has also adjusted to the restrictions that have been laid out as it relates to the Disaster Risk Management Act and the enforcement measures. We are here today to share with you from the Community Safety and Security branch in the Black River Police Station, and we hope that we will be able to impact the members of your church and the residents within the space as to how to treat with the law and the restrictions that have been outlined as it relates to Covid-19. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And of course, this is on behalf of Bishop Dwight Whiteley, who is our host pastor and also district overseer, and all members of the church. All right, sin is defined as a breach of the divine and the moral laws of the land, and the moral laws relates to the legislation and all the acts that govern us. And certainly there has been some amendment and some regulations where the coronavirus and the restrictions are concerned. And as such, we want to remain relevant, want to remain up to date, and hence this forum. All right, I'm just going to ask a few questions that we really need to know, and trust that as we learn, we'll be able to comply with these laid down policies. The first one, as we would have heard over a period of time, recently a curfew would have been imposed, and by 8 p.m. persons are expected to be indoors. Outside of that, we are informed that persons will run the risk of suffer dire consequences. Could you say to us, ma'am, if one has an emergency after the curfew time, what would obtain if one has to be out for reason of an emergency?
Right. Section 52, subsection B of the Disaster Risk Management Act would make provisions for that. The arrest would not be effected on a person who has an emergency because the law provides for reasonable excuse. And in this case, an emergency would be a reasonable excuse for somebody to be on the road. But the police officer will definitely have to ask the questions to ensure that what is being said or the excuse that is given is something that is accepted. So if you have an emergency, the reason for arrest would not present itself at that time.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. We have been told from boyhood days that the frog says, "What is joke to you is death to me." Now, I might consider bread finishing as an emergency because hungry blind me. No, I'm sure that this would not be categorized as an emergency. Let's say I try to make a case and it is not categorized as an emergency. Would the person be arrested, or is there a provision for like a warning in a case of this nature?
In a case of this nature, the person would not be arrested. The police officer is required to warn the person, inform them that it is an offense to fail to comply with the instructions that are given. So the police officer, if they see the person on the street, they have a responsibility to warn them, inform them about the offense, and then if the person fails to comply, then it is an offense and they will be arrested in that case. But they can't be arrested without being warned first and instructed as to what to do.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. It says knowledge is power, and we are being empowered by this knowledge. All right, as you look at our church building, ma'am, you would recognize that it's like a mega church. We have even a balcony upstairs where persons can be facilitated if the need arises. Let's say we are in church and peradventure persons are not aware of numbers and persons walk in after we would have established our 10 for our worship service. If we are observing the social distance, in fact, I heard Dr. Taylor today on Hotline on Radio Jamaica 94 saying that he is taking umbrage with the fact that it's called social distance, he being a sociologist. He's saying social is something that is cognitive or from the mind. He said it is physical distance. Whatever it is, we are cultured to use the term social distance. But if we are observing our social distance and a couple of persons run over the 10, do we invite the police to come and take them out of the church? Or what would happen in a case like that where we are observing our social distance and the number is over 10?
Well, in this case, the social distance would not apply. There are some organizations and agencies that are exempt by law, and unfortunately, those special provisions were not made for the church. We have organizations like the JDF, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, sit-ins of meetings of parliament, municipal corporation, hospitals, infirmaries, places like those. But unfortunately, the law did not make any provisions for the church. Maybe this is something that the church can lobby for in the future, but at this time, it is not provided for.
Okay. Ms. Daly, there are churches today who, although the services are being kept online, but there are groups that will come together like a praise and worship team, and like where the minister are within the number, the 10 that are expected to be there. But like the praise and worship team, they usually stand side by side to do a praise and worship session. Now, if they are found beside each other doing the praise and worship, would this constitute a breach of the social distance?
It would be a breach of the social distance. The officer would now have a responsibility to speak to those persons, warn them. If they fail to comply, warn them and give them the instructions to maintain social distance. If that is not complied with, then at that time, then the police can take further action. But we are imploring persons to comply with the guidelines. It is for your safety as well as the safety of the person that is standing beside you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I really appreciate that, and the fact that you endorse the point that it's really for our own safety. And it says that there is no compromise for sacrifice. So if we are doing it for our well-being, then I'm sure that would be in accordance to the Word of God, because we must ensure that, one, we comply,
yes,
and then we remain safe so that we can continue to give praise
service, yes,
to the Almighty. All right, we would have looked at a few breaches that persons are capable of committing. Naturally, if there's a breach, then there must be a consequence to these breaches. Could you indicate to us what is the charge, the fine, and confinement for breaching the curfew order?
Well, the curfew order, breaching the curfew order does not in and of itself an offense. The offense is when you are out at a time when you're not supposed to be out during the time of curfew. The officer comes and speaks to you in relation to you being on the road. If you do not have a reasonable excuse, the officer will give you the instruction to stay home or to go back home. And if you fail to comply with those instructions, at that point it becomes an offense. And before you are even charged or arrested, the officer has an obligation to inform you that it is an offense to fail to comply with those instructions. The fine, if somebody is found guilty, the maximum fine is $1 million, and the maximum imprisonment is 12 months.
1 million big bucks. Let me see what and what I could do with $1 million now. So it is in my best interest to turn me yard.
Yes, in your best interest and in the interest of the public, do what is expected of you.
Okay. I suspect it would be any difference for the public gathering?
Similar situation.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, ma'am. Question though, Inspector Daly. Statistics would have been very different as it relates to crimes being committed then versus now. How has the restrictions for COVID-19 impacted on crimes being committed? Is there any correlation?
Well, at this time for St. Elizabeth, we have not seen any marked increase in any major crime at all. We still have persons who will take advantage, because what criminals do is they take advantage of opportunities that they see. But there is no increase in crime as it relates to the COVID restrictions that have been placed on the public in relation to that. We have not seen that increase.
Okay, ma'am. Very good.
We would want to use this opportunity, however, may I, to implore residents and members of the church to ensure that though we are ensuring that we stay safe from COVID, we must also remember that the other monster that we have to deal with are the criminals out there. They are still active and they are still working, but the police will not relent. We have additional responsibilities as it relates to the restrictions, but we will do everything that we can to ensure that public safety is enhanced and that the people feel safe. Recently, in St. Elizabeth, there was a recovery of a weapon, right, in the junction space. So the work continues, and we are urging persons to also take the necessary precautions to ensure that they stay safe, not just from COVID, but to prevent themselves from becoming victims of crime as well.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Very important, because the media would have indicated to us that there are persons turning up at people's doors saying that they are from different state agencies, certainly to exploit them at this critical time when persons are very, very anxious and fearful and skeptical of what is happening around. So, like Inspector Daly said, please be on the alert. Look out and ensure that if there's any doubt in your mind, then you engage members of the security forces. Call the numbers that are available, and of course, you should have your local police number. And if not, then the good old 119 will still suffice, I suppose. Let me use this to let you know, ma'am, that I don't envy your job at all. I don't know how UNO police do it, but I really lift my cap to you guys, and I want to let you know that the church is praying for you. Let me find out, though, the fact that the police is on the front line. the police will have to interact with the good, the bad, and the indifferent. The police is expected to assist in conveying COVID patients or where an offense is committed, because persons can be asymptomatic. You'll have to relate to persons. How are you finding allocations to the police, or how are you finding the preparation made for this COVID-19 as it relates to the police being frontline persons?
Right. As it relates to the police in St. Elizabeth, I can say that they have been issued with masks, they have been issued with gloves, they have been issued with sanitizers, and even in some cases, some persons use alcohol, diluted or otherwise. So they are prepared. Persons are encouraged during briefing sessions and during lectures to ensure that they take the necessary precautions to protect themselves. Because let's face it, we are frontline officers. If we are not fit and healthy to protect the people of Jamaica, then we will be leaving up to the hands of the criminals. So we have to ensure that from our perspective that we stay safe and we do everything that is necessary to ensure that we assist in whichever way that we can, but in the same breath, we protect ourselves.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and that is quite reassuring and empowering. Thank God that I live in the parish of St. Elizabeth, and it's obvious that St. Elizabeth is on the ball. Mm-hmm. And as such, I want to commend the commanding officer, Superintendent Samuel Morgan,
yes,
and his team here in the parish to be very proactive to ensure that you can police and enforce the law and secure us as residents of this parish. Question, Inspector Daly. Are there any police officers who would have been so diagnosed as been confirmed? It is not made mention of. So, well, we just want to find out if it would have affected police officers in any particular way by being infected with the virus. Has there been any information of such?
I will speak for St. Elizabeth, and I can say that no member of the JCF and rural police in St. Elizabeth has been affected by COVID.
Very good, very good. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I just want to encourage you to continue to do what you do. I am sure that we have been informed and empowered. And as such, I really want to thank you for sharing those valuable bits of information with us. Just a quick one before we go, Inspector Daly. The media would have announced last Sunday that a pastor of a particular church in St. Catherine would have been arrested for breaching this act where, well, it is reported that over 50 persons were found at a particular house worshipping. In fact, I would want to withdraw the question because the matter is in court and there is nothing much I could really ask outside of what we will be getting from the results out of the court. I really want to thank you, ma'am, for not only gracing us with your charm and your presence at a moment's notice, but the fact that you would have been able to relate to and answer these questions. We really want to say thanks to you. Is there anything else that you'd want to share with us as a church, as a community, as a people, relative to community safety and security?
Yes, from the Community Safety and Security branch, some of our activities have been suspended as a result of the restrictions. However, we continue to serve the communities. We are not able to have our widely publicized meetings. We often visit churches, and we're not able to do that anymore. but we continue to interact with the public. Our neighborhood watch groups and police youth club groups are not able to meet. We find new ways to communicate. We visit persons. We have one-to-one interaction while maintaining the social distance, of course. We have our one-to-one interaction with members of the communities. We continue with our outreach as best as we can, visiting of victims of crime to ensure that they're okay and to reassure them. We continue to seek about the welfare of our members within the division. So the work continues, and we may not be operating in the way that people are accustomed to seeing us at meetings and so on, but we are still within the communities, still maintaining contact and still doing what we can to ensure that the communities stay safe.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. Once again, I am very, very happy and satisfied with the empowerment that you have given us. And I do not want to take tales out of school, but I would have expected nothing less. I am no stranger, I'm sure, that you would have taught me so many things whilst we worked and served together in this very wonderful parish of St. Elizabeth. So God bless you, and thank you so much as you continue to do your core function of enforcing the laws of the land and reassuring the people of our communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I want to say again thank you to the Black River New Testament Church for the invitation, and we welcome the opportunity to continue to interact with you in this way. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.